Hello and welcome back. I'm that Jag girl, and today is day 3 of 30 of your summer savings finance journey. Now, just as a little recap, day one, we kind of talked about identifying your goals and values. We also talked about creating a financial vision board or a calendar. Day two, we talked about finding an accountability partner and also posting that financial calendar or vision board, posting it in your kitchen, posting it in your bathroom on the mirror, posting it at your desk. Day three, we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about how to prioritize your debt repayment and then creating some type of savings plan if you have to. So now, figuring out how much debt you owe, you can go about it a few different ways. You can get all of those envelopes that you haven't opened recently, maybe put them in a category. And most of us don't want to open up those envelopes, right? But this is kind of the only way that you're going to figure out how much debt you have. You can also pull your credit report. Now, every year, annualcreditreport.com, you can get a free credit report. There's also many different companies out here online. Just make sure that you're checking with someplace that's reputable. If you do a Google search, make sure that you look at the Google reviews just to make sure you're not clicking on like a fraudulent website or putting your information into like a fraudulent database or anything like that. But there's a lot of reputable companies that are out here that will give you your credit report also for free, right? Oftentimes, your employer may have options that they'll offer, through a third party company, but they'll offer you a free credit report a year. You have other companies like Credit Karma where you can download their app and, you can put your information in there. It's not necessarily about the score in the beginning, because if you're neglecting your debts or if you haven't paid your debts on time, your score may not be what you're looking for, right? Your score may be less than what the desirable score is for you, right? So we got to start somewhere. So with starting somewhere, we got to figure out what debts we have so that we can then figure out how to repay them. The other thing that we can talk about is setting aside a savings account or savings to, kind of pay off those debts. So if you take a look at your income and you figure out how much money it is that it takes you to, kind of live every month, figure out how much food, housing, utilities, and all of those major incidentals that won't go away from month to month, right? Whatever money it is that you have left over, you can figure out how to then divide up that money to start paying off your debts. You can either start paying a debt that you haven't paid, or you can start allocating a little bit more to a specific debt that you haven't paid in a while or that you're looking to pay off. But a savings account, out of sight, out of mind, will definitely help you with saving for long term. But then you'll have to figure out what's most important. Are you adding money to a savings account, maybe increasing retirement plans at work, or if you have a retirement plan that that you're contributing to on your own, that you set up on your own, or if you're using that money to pay off those debts. All of those things are, actionable items that we have to think about when we're trying to figure out a debt repayment plan. Now, when we think about debt repayment and, basically which debts to pay off first, that's the big question. Do you pay off or do you tackle those debts with the highest balance? Do you pay off or tackle those debts that have the highest monthly payment, the longest term, the shortest term, or the least amount, for the monthly payment? So again, this is something that you have to think about when you're considering a repayment plan and prioritizing that debt. Something else to consider are interest rates. When you're thinking about tackling a set of debt that you're looking to pay off, Something else to consider is which one of your debts have the highest interest rate, which one has the lowest interest rate. If you're in the financial position where you can hire a professional, a financial advisor, then definitely you can sit with your financial advisor, and your financial advisor can definitely look at all of your debts, essentially, right? They can look at all of your debts and help you create a plan so that you make sure that you're paying attention to the correct debts to pay off first. Some people even consider, their goal is to pay off a mortgage. Some people consider, paying off a car quicker. With your car right now, they're offering really long terms with recent car purchases, new car purchases, you know, um, used car purchases. The terms are really long. So your goal could be to pay off that car quicker. You could have student loan debt. There were some announcements about student loan debt and paying off that student loan debt earlier this year in 2025. So maybe your goal is to tackle that student loan debt. But whatever the case is, see if there is a way that you can, maybe add just a little extra. Extra to you may be different than extra for someone else. And again, this plan is your plan. This plan can't be compared to, another family member, a sibling, a friend, a work buddy or a college buddy or a neighbor or something like that. This plan has to be your plan. And you always have to create something that's realistic, right? That's smart and that's realistic. It has to be smart and realistic so that you can make sure that you can keep up with it. Oftentimes we may start a debt repayment plan, our own, to avoid, bankruptcy, to avoid, if it's your home, to avoid foreclosure, if it's your car, to avoid repossession or anything like that. So you have to always pay attention to whatever that debt repayment plan is. It has to be realistic so that you can keep up with it, so that you don't become discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged when you find that, oh my gosh, it's summertime. I want to go on a vacation. I want to go on a short trip. I want to go on a 1 day trip. I want to fly away from, somewhere, or, you just want to do a staycation. You want to, work on your home, or, whatever the case may be. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh my gosh, when I get paid, this week, whatever the day it is, I still have that debt repayment plan that I've promised myself, that I'm going to keep up with. So sometimes it's really hard to tell yourself no and to stay focused and to not be discouraged. But I promise you, there is light at the other end of that tunnel. You just have to make sure that you create a plan, again, that's smart and realistic. Now, I just want to read an article to you. This was published by NerdWallet, and it's on their website, so you can definitely go and check it out. But let me just read you a little snippet from the article. So, and it says there are several options for paying off debt, and that can feel overwhelming. The best way to pay off debt depends largely on how much you owe and how it compares to your income. If your debt doesn't consume a significant portion of your income, you might find success tackling it on your own with a strategy like prioritizing your smallest balance first, combined with careful budgeting. But if your debt is overwhelming, finding ways to increase your income, consolidating debts, or exploring debt relief could be better options, right? Understanding these strategies can help you pay off that debt. So, the writer of this particular article brings up great points. Oftentimes, we look to like extra streams of income, a part-time job. With your current employer, there may be options to pick up extra hours. You just have to make sure that if it's for the purpose of being able to pay off those debts, that again, you stay focused. You stay focused when you do earn that extra income, that your goal again is the debt repayment, paying off those debts. But keep in mind, debt repayment isn't always the reason why we pick up extra hours or, get a part time job or, find other employment, find a different job than what you have now. You may be in the market to purchase a home. You may be in the market to purchase a car. You may be in the market to, find another place to live, or just increase that savings account. If you currently own a home, you may be in the market to like do work on your home and you don't want to necessarily finance it. You don't want to get a loan. So you want to look into saving money in order to pay for those repairs or those renovations in cash. So there's many different reasons why, debt repayment, savings accounts can be important, and there's many different options of making sure that you stick to the plan, stay with the goal, stay headstrong, and we'll get there. We'll get there together. So, thank you so much again for watching. Again, this is day 3 of 30, and I'll see you tomorrow with day 4. Thank you. Bye bye.